Samobaba presents. The Haunted Grave of Bilikisu Sungbo, I Survived the Curse. Chapter 1, She called my name from the grave. She whispered my name from beneath the earth. And that night, my mother started bleeding from her eyes. I know how this sounds, but I lived through it. And if you're reading this, please, don't ever go near her grave. My name is Tejudeen, and I'm a Nigerian documentary filmmaker. I work with a small crew, and together we travel to forgotten places, haunted shrines, and ancient ruins across West Africa. We've seen a lot of creepy stuff, but nothing prepared me for Okari. In July of last year, someone emailed me an idea for an episode. The subject line read, "Do a story on the woman buried in gold, Bilikisu Sungbo. But don't go there alone." That name rang a bell. Bilikisu Sungbo. Locals call her the woman with no origin and no end. Some say she was the Queen of Sheba mentioned in the Bible, the woman who visited King Solomon in Jerusalem. Others say she was an Ethiopian noblewoman, powerful in both wealth and witchcraft. But in Ijibu land, they believe she died in Okari, and that her grave is protected by an ancient curse. I laughed it off. I'd heard stories like this before. But I didn't know the grave was real. And I didn't know that entering the site without permission was like opening a spiritual door you can't close. I arrived in Okari on a hot, quiet Thursday afternoon. My fixer, Benga, met me at the junction and led me to the village head's compound. Everyone we met on the way looked at me strange, like I'd done something wrong, or like I was already marked. The bear welcomed me but didn't smile once. He asked what I came for, and I told him plainly. I want to film Bilikisu Sungbo's grave. He stared at me. Then he leaned forward and said, "If you pass the wrong tree, you will hear her voice. If she calls your name, don't answer. And when you come back, go straight home. Don't greet anyone. Don't eat. Don't speak. Not until the next sunrise." I thought it was all just superstition. That's why I didn't listen. The walk to her grave. The footpath to the grave was narrow and quiet. The air around it was different. Thick, still. Benga refused to follow me once we passed a large, crooked tree the locals called Igiti Keojoko, the tree that never sits. I asked why. He just said, "That's where her spirit watches." I laughed. Again. I was a fool. I reached the grave after 30 minutes of walking. There it was. A low mound covered in sand and white stones, surrounded by old, waist-high walls. No signs, no guards, just silence. I raised my phone to take a photo. And then, I heard it. A whisper. It was my name. Tejudeen. Clear. Female. Soft, but like it was coming from underground. I spun around. No one. I looked down at the mound. I swear, the ground moved. A slow, shallow breath, like something alive was lying under the soil, watching me. I ran. I didn't take the picture. I didn't even stop to pick up my backpack. I just ran like something was chasing me. Because maybe, it was the first sign. That night, back at the guest house, I locked the door, windows, everything. I didn't speak to anyone. I didn't even eat. The bell's words echoed in my head. At exactly 2:59 a.m., I woke up to the sound of sand pouring onto the floor beside my bed. Like someone was burying me alive. When I turned on my phone torch, there was nothing. No sound. No sound. But on the mirror, written in tiny fingerprints, were the words. "You answered." The next morning, I packed and left Okari immediately. I didn't film anything. I didn't even say goodbye. By the time I got home to Ibadan, I told myself maybe I imagined everything. Sleep deprivation. Stress. Hysteria. It had to be. Until my mom knocked on my door at 4 a.m., holding her face, crying. Tajudeen. I don't know what's happening. My eyes are burning. I can't see. When I turned on the lights, her eyes were filled with blood. I rushed her to the hospital. The doctor said it was a burst vessel. Something rare. Nothing they did could stop the bleeding. She lost her vision for 3 days. And that was only the beginning. Because I didn't just walk into a graveyard that day. I walked straight into a curse. Chapter 2, The Queen Who Never Died. They say she was buried in gold. But when grave robbers dug up the site in 1999, they never made it out of the forest. 3 days after my mother's eyes bled, she started hearing voices. She'd just lie in bed, frozen, whispering. They are calling my name, in a language I don't understand. I didn't tell her anything about Okari. I was too scared she'd think I'd brought evil into the house. But inside, I knew what was happening. The curse had followed me. And I was beginning to understand why. The history they don't teach. Let me tell you about Bilikisu Sungbo. In Sunday school, you may have heard of the Queen of Sheba, right? A powerful African queen who visited King Solomon, bringing gifts of gold and spices. Now here's the twist. The Ethiopians say her name was Makeda, and that she had a child with Solomon, but in a royal bloodline. But the Ijibu people have their own version. They say she didn't die in Ethiopia. She left. Quietly. With her gold, her secrets, and a black book no one was allowed to touch. They say she came to Nigeria, Ijibu, to be precise. And when she died, they didn't bury her like a normal person. They built a deep underground chamber somewhere inside the Sungbo Erido, filled with her gold and her bones. But here's where it gets scary. They say she never truly died. The robbery that no one talks about. In 1999, some grave robbers from Benin Republic came into Okari at night. A group of 7. Armed. Professional. They were looking for gold. They believed the stories about a queen buried with jewels, scrolls, and ancient artifacts that could make them rich forever. The next morning, only one of them made it out. He was naked, bleeding, and covered in sand from head to toe. When the villagers asked what happened, all he said was, "We didn't dig, the ground opened for us." Then he bit off his own tongue and died before sunset. My phone began ringing at 2:59 a.m. every night. After my mom lost her sight and started hearing whispers, I thought that was the worst of it. Then my phone started ringing. Same time. 2:59 a.m. every night. No caller ID. No number. And when I picked it the third night, I heard the same voice from Okari. Tajudeen, open your door. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat, sweating in the corner of my room, phone in hand, lights off. I knew this wasn't mental. This wasn't stress. Something ancient had followed me. Benga refuses to speak. I called Benga, the fixer who took me to the grave. I asked if he'd experienced anything strange since we left the site. He didn't say a word. Just breathing. Then he whispered. She won't stop walking at night. I said, "Who? Your sister? Wife?" "No. The queen. I see her from the window. She wears white, but the bottom of her dress is soaked with blood." Then the line cut off. I haven't been able to reach Benga since that day. His number doesn't exist anymore. I finally told my mom the truth. She was in the hospital chapel, eyes bandaged, sitting alone. I sat next to her, crying silently. And I told her everything. Okari. The grave. The whisper. The warnings I ignored. She didn't move for a long time. Then she reached out and touched my arm. "You brought death home, my son. You need to fix it, before it spreads." That same night, my uncle died in his sleep. Cause of death: suffocation from soil in his lungs. He hadn't left his bed all day. Chapter 3: The Woman Who Bathes in Bones. I thought I saw my mother sitting on the edge of the hospital bed, but she died that morning. That night, I went to the hospital to see my mom one last time. She passed away at 5:12 a.m. The nurses said her heart stopped suddenly. But here's the thing. At 5:09 a.m., I walked into her room and saw her sitting up, staring out the window. I said, "Mom." She turned slowly and smiled. But it wasn't her smile. It was someone else's face, wearing her skin. When I blinked, she vanished. 3 minutes later, the doctor called me to the corridor. "Tistate. I'm sorry. She's gone." Benga's last message. 2 days after her death, I got a voicemail from Benga. "Don't go back to the grave, bro. They use someone close to you. That's how they get in." Then there was a rustling sound. A strange humming, like a woman singing without a tongue. And then screaming. I haven't heard from him since. I started digging. I went back to my room and pulled out every book, every thread online, every old blog post about Sungbo's Erido and Bilikisu. Here's what I found that chilled me. An Italian archaeologist named Dr. Martino Savotti visited Okare in the 70s. He claimed he met a bone woman in a dream. She told him she bathed in the blood of traitors and lived in a chamber built from the rib bones of soldiers. Weeks after that, his body was found in the forest. All his bones were missing. But his organs were untouched. And carved into his chest was a word in Arabic. Makeda. My room smelled like rotten wood. The nightmares came next. I'd wake up with sand between my toes. My bedsheet looked soaked. But not with water. It smelled like swamp and blood. And on my wall, drawn in something brown and thick, was the same word again. Makeda. I called a local Islamic cleric for help. He walked into my house, took one look at my wall, and stepped back. "You entered where you shouldn't have. And now, she's claimed something. The queen's true curse." There's an old priest in Ijibu who knew about Bilikisu more than most. I had to beg him for an audience. His name? Baba Fashina. He's blind now. But he talks in riddles. Here's what he told me. She came here with rage. Her kingdom rejected her after Solomon died. She left with his scrolls, angry at men and gods alike. In Okare, she built her grave. Not for peace, but for vengeance. They say if you speak her name by the grave, she chooses someone to carry her pain forward. And if she appears to you, it's already too late. My neighbor's kid saw her. A 7-year-old boy who lived in the next flat stopped talking for 2 days. His mom said he kept staring at the corner of their living room, saying, "Mommy, the woman in the dirty dress is waiting." The night I was packing to leave the estate, she ran to my door, sobbing. She said her son was missing. The police came. His tiny shoes were found outside the gate. But nothing else. No prints. No signs of struggle. Just 2 symbols drawn on the ground. Same word again. Makeda. My friend tried to burn the artifact. Yes. I took something from the grave. Just a small piece of stone. I thought it was nothing. A souvenir. A friend of mine, David, came over and said, "Burn it, let's just end it." So we did. We built a fire and dropped the stone in. It didn't melt. It didn't break. Instead, the fire turned black. And we heard a scream from inside the flame. A high-pitched cry, like a woman drowning. David hasn't spoken since that night. He sits in his room, drawing circles. Something is coming for me. I dream now. Every night. In the dream, I'm back at Okari. There's no sound. No birds. No wind. Just her voice. You should never have come. You brought back what belongs to the earth. And now the earth will take something in return. Chapter 4, The Ritual of Bones. I watched him crack open the chicken skull, and when the blood hit the floor, the lights in my house went out, on a clear day, at 2:14 in the afternoon. I had finally told someone everything. A man they called Baba Lace. A spiritualist who didn't use Instagram, didn't charge money, and didn't even want to know my full name. He only asked one thing. Did you step on the mound or speak at the grave? I nodded. He looked at me like I had told him I stole from the gods. You disturbed her. And now, her watchers have followed you. The rules of the cleansing. He gave me 3 rules. No mirrors for 7 days. Don't sleep before 1 a.m. Don't answer the door if you hear knocking after midnight. Then he handed me a live chicken, a calabash, and some black soap. If you break any of the rules, the ritual will fail. And if it fails, you won't survive the 7th night. The first sign, eyes in the wall. That same night, I saw it. I wasn't asleep. I was just lying on the bed with the lights off, thinking of my mother. Then, I heard breathing. But it was coming from the wall beside me. I turned slowly. And I swear on my life, I saw 2 glowing eyes staring from inside the crack of my wall, just floating in pitch darkness. I blinked. They were gone. But the wall? It was wet. With something thick. Dark red. I broke the first rule. On the 3rd night, I forgot. I passed by my mirror at 11:45 p.m. What I saw wasn't me. It was someone wearing my face, but older. Rotten. With holes for eyes and cracks running through the skin like dry earth. And it whispered. Too late. I smashed the mirror. But the damage was done. Baba Lace didn't show up the next morning. I called his number. A police officer picked up. You know this man? He was found dead in a small hut. No wounds. But, we found feathers in his mouth. A voice in the dark. That night, I stayed awake like the rule said. At 12:42 a.m., I heard a knock. Not on my door. On my window. Then, the voice came. My mother's voice. Tejudin, my son, open for me. I couldn't breathe. She kept repeating it. It's cold outside. I need to come in. I stood still. Eyes wide. Praying. Then I heard the handle of my door slowly creak, like something was trying it from the inside. Benga's return, sort of. At 3:17 a.m., my phone lit up. It was a video message. From Benga's number. The video was grainy. But I saw him. Or at least something wearing his skin. He was sitting in the bush, near the mound at Okari. Crying. Talking to someone behind the camera. She said she needs 7. I'm number 6. Don't come here again, bro. Don't bring anyone. Then the camera shifted. For 0.5 seconds. I saw her. Long dress made of ropes. Bones around her neck. And a smile too wide to be human. The ritual begins. I called another spiritualist. This one was Yoruba, old school, and lived near Ilishan. He came in silence, with kola nuts, red cloth, and a wooden bowl. He performed something he called Ipie Itoju Egongon, an ancestral protection rite. He said, you are standing at the edge of 2 worlds. You must choose what you believe in. Because she thrives on confusion. He gave me a final warning. On the 7th night, you'll either be free or marked forever. If you hear her laugh during the ritual, don't run. Don't scream. Don't blink. Day 7, the earth opened. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. The street dogs that usually howled. Gone. No generators. No footsteps. No wind. The ritual started at 11 p.m. By 11:11, the candle Baba lit flickered and turned blue. And at exactly 11:44, I felt it. The ground beneath my feet started to hum. The room got cold, real cold, but I was sweating. Then came the sound. A woman's laugh. Not loud, but clear. Like it came from inside my chest. The final vision. I blacked out. But I saw things. Things I can't explain. I saw Bilikisu walking through a desert, dragging a golden staff, surrounded by corpses in armor. I saw her face up close. Eyes pitch black. Her mouth was sewn shut with gold thread. But she still spoke. I have lived 1,000 lives. And in every one, I was betrayed. I was never buried. I was bound. And you, son of a careless land, woke me up. I woke up. Naked. Alone. In the middle of a river. My phone was gone. The spiritualist was gone. Only the chicken was there, floating beside me. Its eyes wide open. But it wasn't dead. It was smiling. Chapter 5, The Last Night at Okari. I heard her voice inside my head again. This time, she said, if you speak of me again, I'll come for your tongue first. I had done everything. The rituals. The sacrifices. I had obeyed the rules. But still, the curse held on. I felt it, like something wet and cold sitting on my back. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't laugh. Even water felt bitter in my mouth. It was like my life was slowly draining. That's when I got the final message. A dream. Or maybe something more. The dream of the golden dust. In the dream, I was standing at the grave again. But this time, the trees around me were gone. The sky was red, and the wind sounded like thousands of whispers at once. And then, Bilikisu appeared. She wasn't angry. She wasn't beautiful either. She was just tired. Old. Not by age, but by pain. She pointed to a crack in the earth and said, they buried me without peace. They told lies in place of truth. My name was never theirs to keep. So now, your blood sings my name. You are the last echo. I knelt. I didn't know why. But I wept. And in that moment, I realized. She didn't want revenge. She wanted rest. The final offering. When I woke, I knew what to do. I didn't go to a babalawo. I didn't go to a pastor. I went back to Okari. Alone. I carried 3 things. A calabash of honey. A white dove. And a carved wooden plaque that simply read, here lies Bilikisu. Queen. Warrior. Betrayed. May you find peace. I placed them all at the grave. I knelt there for 1 full hour. Not speaking. Not moving. And then, the wind blew. The tree sighed. And for the first time in months, I felt light. Like I had finally been forgiven. What happened after? I moved away from Ijibu. I changed my number. My address. My life. And slowly, things returned to normal. I slept through the night. I stopped hearing whispers. No more knocks on my window. The last dream I had of her, she was walking into a river of gold, finally smiling. Warning. Some of you watching this might think it's just a story. Just some old folktale about a queen who went mad. But this is not fiction. There is a grave in Okari. There are stories buried in the soil. And if you go there with curiosity instead of respect, you won't leave the same. A final message from Samobaba. If you've made it to the end, thank you for watching. Share this story with someone you know who plays with what they don't understand. Drop a comment below. Have you ever heard of Bilikisu Sungbo? Do you know someone who's experienced something supernatural in Ijibuland? If you do, tell them to stay away from the mound. And whatever you do, don't call her name at night. Like, share, subscribe. New true African horror stories every week. Only on Samobaba Tales. See you in the next nightmare. Until then, sleep with the lights on.